Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to all of our nominees. Thank you for serving our country. Mr. Planke, I have a couple of fairly straightforward yes or no questions. Was the 2020 election rigged and stolen?
Senator, thank you for your question.
It's pretty much a yes or no question.
Thank you for your question, Senator. I have not reviewed any of the cybersecurity of the 2020 election.
Don't have an opinion on whether the 2020 election was rigged and stolen?
Senator, my opinion on the election as an American private citizen is probably not really relevant, but the Electoral College did confirm President Joe Biden swore him into office.
Well, let me ask you, were there, quote, widespread election malfeasance and serious vulnerabilities with the voting machines, end quote, that changed the election outcome?
Yes, Senator, as you know, elections are state-run entities, and many different secretaries of state across the 50 states of the United States pursue different methods to secure their own elections.
Mr. Planke, my time is limited, so I'm just going to say to you, there ought to be no hesitation in your answer to these questions. The agency that you've been nominated to lead, CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, along with the entire national security and intelligence community, agreed that the election was secure. You're undermining the confidence of the nation in the election apparatus at a time when that credibility is as important as ever, when you're about to lead an agency that has responsibility for that security. State and elections officers across the country ran audits and examinations, and on a bipartisan basis, affirmed that President Trump lost the election. He won the next election. The answer to my questions is no. The 2020 election was not rigged and stolen. There were no widespread election malfeasance and serious vulnerabilities, even though President Trump said there were. Now, I know it is a contentious topic, but your role in that agency is to be above politics. If you can't tell us with conviction and conscience that those elections were secure, I have very serious doubts about your ability to lead this agency. Let me ask you, if President Trump comes to you and he demands that CISA falsely claim that the 2026 or 2028 elections were rigged, what will you do?
Senator, as a cybersecurity professional, these are state-run elections. I have not reviewed the cybersecurity posture of all 50 states.
With all due
That's like
respect,
a doctor,
sir.
Senator. That's like a doctor who's diagnosing somebody over the television because they saw him on the news.
No, it's like a doctor who has a patient come to him and is responsible for doing the diagnosis. It may be a second opinion, but it actually is the determinative opinion because you are the head of the federal agency that oversees the security of our election system for the entire nation. And you're telling me, in effect, you're just gonna dodge, you're gonna jump ship, you're gonna evade that responsibility. I think that answer is completely unsatisfactory.
Senator, I did not say that I would dodge or abate any of my responsibility. I would remind you, Senator, that CISA is a consent-based cybersecurity agency, and cybersecurity, CISA is postured to respond and support every state across the United States, and we will gladly and do our due diligence to support those states across the United States.
You seem not to understand the responsibility of CISA. People turn to this agency for unbiased, objective, science, evidence-based expert information. And you're in effect saying that if President Trump comes to you and he says, I want you to say this election was rigged, you're going to yield to him. Thank you.
You know, when we talk about elections and whether or not they're rigged or not, I don't think one party or another is particularly immune to this. There's still people who believe that the Daley machine and the mafia conspired in Cook County in 1960. There's some evidence of it. You know, it's a long-time American tradition, you know, for both parties to question the other party in elections. I will say that in 2016, when Donald Trump won the first time, you know, Hillary Clinton, to this day, says that he was an illegitimate president. Jimmy Carter said he was illegitimate. From the very beginning, they tried to delegitimize Trump. So I would say it's no different. And in fact, if we're going to criticize Donald Trump for questioning the 2020 election, we should be equally critical of Hillary Clinton for questioning the 2016 election. The quotes are legion. I mean, dozens and dozens of quotes, dozens and dozens of interviews. Hillary Clinton to this day is unrepentant in this, but it's worse than that. That's just sort of an opinion. What they ended up doing is using the apparatus of government to try to delegitimize Trump. They used the apparatus of government to spread something that was a falsehood, that the Russians got the election for Donald Trump. He wasn't deserving. The people didn't vote for him. The Russians did this. But it turns out that all of the intelligence reports saying the Russians, of course they try to meddle. They meddle every time in all of our elections. But it was judged to be insignificant and not consequential until it wasn't. Until all of a sudden someone at the top of the intelligence community decided, oh, well, yeah, we think Donald Trump's illegitimate. We're going to spread this throughout government. And there basically was a conspiracy using government and using the power of the intel agencies. So for people who complain, Donald Trump complained about the 2020 election, my goodness. The Obama administration planted misinformation throughout government purposely. They planted it in lots of different places. At one point, John Brennan is asked the question by the analyst that he has selected, this information, sir, this dossier, this Steele dossier is opposition research, and it is unchecked. It is unverified. And Brennan's flippant response was, yeah, but sure sounds like it could be true. Sure rings true. This is the head of the CIA saying this. They got together and really cooked up something to delegitimize. So I really am not that interested in hearing, oh, Donald Trump says it, and will you admit the election wasn't rigged? There's a great book on this. It's called Rigged by Molly Hemingway, and in it she goes through in great detail the Democrats' disregard. You know, does anybody remember the Democrats voted against seating electors? You know, the whole January 6th stuff, they say, oh, this is unprecedented. Republicans aren't seating the electors. Now, look, I voted to seat the electors. I thought the argument wasn't a valid argument. But the thing is, Democrats, including one of the ones who worked, Raskin, to impeach the president, he voted not to seat the electors in 2016 because he thought the election was rigged. So for goodness sakes, let's put this to rest. Both parties have accused each other of malfeasance. Both parties have accused the elections of being rigged. And let's just try to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, nothing you've said absolves this witness of a responsibility to answer these basic questions about the core responsibility of the agency he's been nominated to lead.
The CISA has nothing to do with the elections. The CISA has nothing to do with the state-run elections. Senator Moody.
Well, we will
Thank you,
agree
Mr.
to
Chairman.
disagree, I guess.